a loud provocation, a preemptive strike against NATO. Russia is preparing for a preventive war. Medvedev is threatening the West with nuclear weapons. Putin remains silent. Medvedev explodes. The strike is inevitable. World War I/II is approaching.
Dmitry Medvedev has once again declared that Russia is ready to carry out a preemptive strike, this time against NATO countries. There is a possible threat. No specific facts about who or when someone was planning to attack were mentioned, but according to the Deputy Chairman of the Security Council, Moscow will not wait if it senses danger.
Unfortunately, the response is through doctrine, peace through fear. So far, fear is still working. Everything else is zero.
This approach essentially means that Russia reserves the right to strike first, including against the territory of alliance member states. And this is not defense, but a strategy of preemptive aggression. Though that's in keeping with Russia's style.
What is happening today is a proxy war, but in essence it is a full-scale war. Sanctions packages, loud statements about the militarization of Europe are yet another attempt to destroy the historical anomaly so hated by the West. Russia, our country.
A preemptive strike is a term from nuclear doctrine. Formerly, Russia reserved this right only in the event of a threat to the existence of the state. But now it sounds as if merely the feeling of a threat is enough, not actual actions.
We must act accordingly, provide a comprehensive response, and if necessary, carry out preemptive strikes.
So, who are these words addressed to? First and foremost, obviously, to the NATO countries that are actively supporting Ukraine, primarily to those who are deploying weapons, training Ukrainian soldiers, or strengthening the alliance's eastern flank, in other words, practically all of Eastern Europe.
There's not a single country whose security has been strengthened as a result of joining NATO. They are now part of a bloc hostile to us, which means they automatically become a target for our armed forces, including possible retaliatory strikes, and even the nuclear component, or preemptive measures under our military doctrine.
However, such statements are now met with wary indifference. Medvedev, who lost his official influence after stepping down as president, has become a loud but predictable voice of Russian aggression over the past 2 years.
The more utterly ridiculous a country becomes, the more incredibly arrogant some of its truly crazy leaders tend to become.
Since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, he has been publishing threats almost every week: nuclear, political, and economic. He threatens Europe, the US, Japan, and even Kazakhstan. His rhetoric is getting harsher, but there are fewer and fewer reactions.
It should be remembered that there is another path for the Kyiv regime, which has also been mentioned repeatedly. This is the path of unconditional surrender. Such a formula for peace also exists in international law. To be frank, many people in our country like it much more.
It's obvious that such statements are an attempt at pressure, mostly informational and psychological, to create the image of an unpredictable Russia that is supposedly ready for anything, even if these are just loud words. But in nuclear policy, even words carry weight, especially when they come from official figures and especially against the backdrop of a full-scale war, where the line between rhetoric and action can disappear in a single morning.
Pokrovsk is on the brink. Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups are breaking into the city. The Ukrainian armed forces are responding harshly. Ukraine is holding key frontline positions and preparing for an offensive. The occupiers' logistics have been destroyed and the Crimeans are already poised to move. The bunker dweller learns everything in real time.
4,000 shellings and more than 130 attempts to storm the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces. Russia is advancing in some sectors of the front, but the defense forces are holding all key directions. What is happening on the front today, and why is the Kremlin sending suicide squads to Pokrovsk? Over the past day alone, the Russians have tried to break through in Pokrovsk more than 60 times. According to preliminary estimates, more than 200 people were eliminated in these assaults.
The situation is very difficult because the enemy is desperately trying to achieve the maximum result with the forces and resources they have. And at the same time, which is also a particular cause for concern, the enemy is advancing eastward toward Konstantinivka, moving in the direction of Popov Yar and Rusynya.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
This indicates that the enemy is putting the maximum of its resources and combat potential into this offensive push. And in order to hold them back, well, we need to demonstrate exceptional resilience and exert every resource we have to the fullest.
At the same time, one of the occupiers' sabotage and reconnaissance groups caused quite a stir in the press. It is known that 3 groups managed to reach the outskirts of the city in armored vehicles. It is reported that the sabotage and reconnaissance group was detected, partially destroyed, and those who survived were taken prisoner. Also, according to analysts, there was no real expectation of success, since the group had virtually no artillery or drone support. They were, as they say, taking a chance, but fortunately luck was on the side of the Ukrainian armed forces.
They can't really cause any significant harm, so they start some skirmishes, shell the positions of the defending troops, that is the armed forces of Ukraine, try to sow panic, try to bring chaos into the defensive lines, and accordingly must be eliminated. These are, in general, the people in these groups are basically suicide squads because, well, once they end up in the city, this group inevitably gets surrounded and, well, their fate is grim.
In southern Ukraine, the occupiers have achieved minor success near Malotokmashka in the Zaporizhia region. In the Kherson region, however, Russian assaults have only resulted in losses for the Russians. At the same time, experts say that Moscow has been preparing reserves in the occupied south for a long time, and in the near future it will become clear in which direction they intend to use them.
This week, we are specifically expecting redeployment, which will show what the Russians are preparing for. That is, now they need to take these resources and their units, which are based there, and after finishing preparations, move them to the front line. They don't move them very far. It could be the Zaporizhia or the north of Donetsk region. In fact, what interests us most is which point and where they will focus their maximum efforts.
Recently, the Sumy direction has also become more active. There, as usual, the main fighting is for the settlement of Vovchansk.
At this moment, the enemy is taking advantage of the fact that this is a nature reserve and also of the wide forest belts and mixed forests here, where it is very difficult to observe movement. That's why the enemy is trying to do everything possible on the outskirts of Vovchansk to advance specifically through the forested areas. But again, the defense forces are working to block the enemy. There are no significant successes on the battlefield.
The Russian advance has also stalled near the village of Milov. According to Russian propaganda, a second front was supposed to open there in the Kharkiv region almost effortlessly. However, according to the Ukrainian armed forces, the enemy has not achieved any success for a week now, only pointlessly losing soldiers in attempts to advance.
They have been drawn into a pocket there, which is currently the most comfortable position for our defense, and systematic work is being carried out to destroy the enemy. He cannot expand this bridgehead.
Our command also reports that now, in addition to direct fighting on the front line, Ukraine has also succeeded in operations behind enemy lines. Clearly, after assessing how much and what the Russians are bringing to the front, a solution was found so that all of it, if not left in Russia, would at least move much more slowly. And that solution is strikes on the railway.
This is logistics. This is the delivery of the necessary resources. And the strikes are quite serious. And right now, it's no coincidence that we're expecting good news from Novocherkassk, because the railway has always been a priority for the Russians in building their military logistics. This logistics of the North Caucasus Railway is specifically aimed at this section of the front. This is the southern part of the front for the Russians, and it's where they are transferring the necessary resources to the Donetsk region. This also includes the Pokrovsk direction.
At the same time, against the backdrop of recent insider reports about the conversation between Trump and Zelensky, the theories that the Ukrainian armed forces will soon advance no longer seem unfounded. This is already being openly discussed in the Russian State Duma. And according to experts in the General Staff, such a scenario is quite realistically being considered already this year.
Ukraine is considering the issue of preparing offensive operations. This is not about a counteroffensive, but about an offensive that should lead to the defeat of the enemy on the southern front and the subsequent loss of Crimea. If Ukrainian defense forces reach the coast of the Sea of Azov, the fate of Crimea will be decided within 2 or 3 months. These are obvious facts. As strange as it may sound today, we are thinking about this.
At the same time, of course, no one is officially talking about an offensive. The Ukrainian command has learned from its mistakes, and now Russia will only find out about both the direction and the start of the strike in real time.
That's all for now. For more breaking news from the front, tune in to our next episode.